So there I was, Marcus Wimple, standing in formation with the most elite military unit in the Galactic Defense Corps, trying desperately not to wheeze too loudly. You know that feeling when you're clearly in the wrong place at the wrong time. Yeah, that was my entire military career. To my left stood Sergeant Kane, a woman who could probably bench press a small moon and looked like she ate nails for breakfast. Her biceps had biceps. Her glare could melt steel. She was everything a space marine should be, which made it even more embarrassing that I was technically her subordinate. Wimple, she barked, and I swear the windows rattled. Drop and give me 20. I dropped. That part was easy. Gravity and I were old friends. The 20 push-ups, however, were a different story. I managed 3 before my arms gave out like wet noodles, and I face-planted into the metal deck with all the grace of a drunk penguin. Pathetic, muttered Rick Sterling from my right. Rick was the kind of guy who looked like he'd been carved from marble by angels with really good taste. Perfect jaw, perfect hair, perfect everything. He could probably do push-ups in his sleep. Hell, he probably did. I don't know how you made it through basic training, Wimple. Neither did I, honestly. I suspected it involved a clerical error and several people not doing their jobs properly. Maybe his secret talent is comedy, suggested Luna Park, the squad's tech specialist. Luna was brilliant enough to hack alien computers with her eyes closed, but she had the social skills of a caffeinated chipmunk. Though if that's the case, he's really committed to the bit. I hauled myself up gasping like a fish out of water. Hey, I'll have you know I scored very high on the aptitude tests. Yeah, for getting lost in a paper bag. Rick snorted. Sergeant Kane stepped forward, her boots clicking like a countdown to my doom. Listen up, maggots. We've got a mission briefing in 5 minutes. Some eggheads on Zephyr 7 have gone dark, and Command wants us to check it out. Probably nothing more than a communication malfunction, but regulations say we investigate. She looked directly at me, and I could see the gears turning in her head. Wimple, try not to trip over your own shadow on this one. We're representing the human race out there. No pressure, I muttered. What was that? I said roger that, Sergeant. As the squad dispersed to prep for the mission, I couldn't help but wonder how exactly I'd ended up here. 1 minute I was filing paperwork at the recruitment office, the next I was somehow enrolled in the most elite military unit in known space. It was like winning the lottery, except instead of money, you got the chance to embarrass yourself in front of the entire galaxy. Rick was already checking his rifle with the efficiency of someone who actually knew what he was doing. Luna was running diagnostics on her scanner, fingers flying over the controls like she was playing a complicated piano piece. Sergeant Kane was reviewing mission parameters, her jaw set in that way that meant business. And me? I was trying to figure out which end of my plasma rifle was the dangerous one. This was going to be a long day. 3 hours later we were standing outside Research Station Omega-12 on Zephyr 7, which looked about as welcoming as a haunted house during a power outage. The place was dead quiet, and not in a good way. More like in a everyone inside is probably very, very dead way. Readings are all over the place, Luna reported, frowning at her scanner. Life signs are weird, like really weird. Define weird, Sergeant Kane ordered, checking her weapon for the 15th time. Well, there are definitely people in there, but their biological signatures are off the charts. Elevated heart rates, increased muscle density, brain activity that's, honestly, it's kind of scary. Rick flexed his perfect muscles. Probably just performance enhancers. Scientists love their chemical cocktails. I was busy trying not to trip over the landing ramp, which was a full-time job. Maybe they discovered alien coffee. I suggested helpfully. Everyone ignored me. I was used to it. The airlock hissed open, and we stepped into what used to be a pristine research facility. Now it looked like a tornado had hit it. If tornadoes were really angry and had opposable thumbs. Equipment was scattered everywhere. Walls were dented like someone had been using them for punching practice, and there were these weird slimy trails leading deeper into the station. Stay sharp, people, Kane whispered, which was apparently military speak for we're all probably going to die horribly. We moved through the corridors in tactical formation, which meant everyone else looked professional while I tried not to knock over anything important. The place gave me the creeps. It was too quiet, except for this weird humming sound coming from somewhere deeper in the facility. Contact ahead, Rick whispered, pointing down a corridor. Sure enough, there was a figure shambling toward us. It used to be Dr. something or other, according to his name tag. But now he looked like he'd been hitting the gym for about 40 years straight. His muscles had muscles. His lab coat was stretched so tight it looked like it might explode. Dr. Pembleton, Kane called out. Are you all right, sir? The doctor turned toward us, and I immediately wished he hadn't. His eyes were completely black, like someone had filled them with ink. When he smiled, His teeth looked way too sharp for comfort. Perfect specimens, he said in a voice that sounded like gravel in a blender. The swarm requires perfect specimens. That's when things went sideways, which was pretty much my specialty. Dr. Pembleton moved faster than anything that muscular had a right to move. 1 second he was standing there looking creepy. The next he was charging at us like a freight train with anger management issues. Rick opened fire, his plasma bolts hitting the doctor square in the chest. Any normal human would have been vaporized. Dr. Pembleton just kept coming, now with a mild case of being on fire. Fall back, Kane shouted, which was excellent advice that I was already following. Unfortunately, I was following it by tripping over my own feet and tumbling backward down a maintenance corridor. As I rolled away in a tangle of limbs and weapons, I could hear the sounds of combat behind me. Plasma fire shouting, and what sounded like someone throwing a vending machine around. My squad was getting their butts handed to them by a single enhanced scientist, which was both terrifying and somehow typical of my luck. I finally came to a stop against a supply closet door, which promptly opened and dumped me inside like the universe was trying to tell me something. From my new hiding spot, I could hear more footsteps in the corridor. Heavy, purposeful footsteps. Multiple sets of them. More doctors. Great. Through the crack in the door, I watched as 3 more enhanced scientists stalked past, their black eyes scanning for threats. They moved like predators, all coordinated and scary. Behind them, I could hear my squad mates being dragged away, Kane cursing creatively in at least 4 different languages. So there I was, Marcus Wimple, hiding in a supply closet, while my elite teammates got captured by mad scientists. This was definitely not covered in the training manual. Then again, neither was most of my military career. I was really starting to think that clerical error was looking less and less like an accident. I was sitting in that supply closet, contemplating my life choices, and wondering if there was a career in professional hiding, when something grabbed my ankle. I may have screamed. A little. Okay. A lot. Shush, you nincompoop, hissed a voice from behind a pile of cleaning supplies. Do you want to get us both killed? A scrawny figure emerged from the shadows, wearing a lab coat that had seen better decades and glasses held together with what looked like hope and duct tape. His name tag read, Dr. Reginald Fizzlebottom, which honestly sounded like something I would have made up. Are you here to rescue us? He whispered urgently. I looked down at myself, cowering in a supply closet, with a plasma rifle I barely knew how to use. Do I look like rescue material to you? Good point. You look more like someone who got lost on the way to the cafeteria. Hey, that's surprisingly accurate. But whose us's? I thought everyone was hulked out and homicidal. Dr. Fizzlebottom adjusted his broken glasses. Just me and the janitor, but poor Henderson got nabbed an hour ago. The parasites, they're selective, you see. They only bond with optimal hosts. Parasites. Alien parasites. We found them in a meteor sample. Fascinating little creatures really. They enhance their hosts, make them stronger, faster, smarter. Unfortunately, they also make them completely insane and obsessed with spreading to new hosts. Great. Alien brainworms. This day just kept getting better. So why didn't they get you? I asked. Dr. Fizzlebottom looked offended. I'll have you know I'm in perfectly adequate physical condition for a man of 67 with chronic back pain and a gluten intolerance. Right. So we're both too pathetic for the parasites to bother with. Essentially, yes. They seek out prime specimens. Peak physical condition, optimal neural pathways, superior genetic markers. They're quite discriminating. As if the universe was listening and decided to play a cosmic joke, something small and slimy dropped from the ventilation grate above us. It looked like a cross between a jellyfish and a very angry noodle, about the size of my fist and pulsing with an eerie blue light. Oh dear, Dr. Fizzlebottom said, backing away. That's a parasite. The thing turned toward me, and I swear it looked disappointed, like it was thinking, really, this is what I get? This sad excuse for a human being. Don't move, Fizzlebottom whispered. Maybe it won't notice you're technically alive, but the parasite seemed to have other ideas. It started moving toward me with the kind of determined wiggle that suggested it had made up its mind about something unfortunate. Why is it coming this way? I hissed. I thought you said they only wanted optimal hosts. They do. This is highly irregular. You're about as far from optimal as humanly possible. Thanks, Doc. Really boosting my confidence here. The parasite reached my boot and started climbing up my leg. I tried to shake it off, but it held on like a determined cat heading for a tuna convention. Higher and higher it went, until it reached my neck. "This is going to hurt," Dr. Fizzlebottom said helpfully. He wasn't wrong. The thing latched onto the base of my skull with what felt like tiny burning needles, and suddenly my brain was full of something else. Something alien and confused, and apparently very disappointed in its choice of real estate. The sensation was indescribable. Imagine someone redecorating your mind without asking permission, but they have terrible taste and no idea how anything works. I could feel the parasite trying to access my memories, my skills, my physical capabilities, and getting increasingly frustrated. It was like watching someone try to hotwire a broken bicycle. "Fascinating," Dr. Fizzlebottom muttered, watching me writhe on the floor. "The bonding process usually takes seconds. You've been at it for 3 minutes now." "Is that bad?" I gasped. "For the parasite? Probably. I think you might be the first host in history that's too incompetent for alien enhancement." The burning sensation finally stopped, and I sat up, expecting to feel different, stronger, faster, more capable of basic military functions. Instead, I felt exactly the same, except now there was a tiny voice in my head complaining about the accommodations. "Well?" Dr. Fizzlebottom asked. "How do you feel?" I flexed my arms experimentally, still noodle-like, tried to think profound thoughts. Still pretty much empty up there. Attempted to sense my enhanced abilities. "Nothing. I think your parasite might be defective," I told him. "Or you are," he replied cheerfully. "Either way, this is scientifically fascinating and probably going to get us both killed." "So what exactly should I be feeling right now?" I asked Dr. Fizzlebottom, as we crept through the corridors, trying to avoid the enhanced death squad that used to be his colleagues. "Well, typically the host experiences a dramatic increase in physical capabilities within minutes. Enhanced strength, speed, reflexes, cognitive function. You should be able to bench press a small vehicle by now." I tried lifting a fallen chair. It was still heavy. "Yeah, that's not happening." Curious. Perhaps the bonding was incomplete. Or, he trailed off as footsteps echoed from the corridor ahead. Heavy, synchronized footsteps that definitely belonged to people who could bench press vehicles. That's when I felt it. A sudden overwhelming surge of terror that made my knees knock together like castanets. And that's also when something very weird happened. The metal door beside us, which had been dented but intact, suddenly crumpled inward like it was made of aluminum foil. I stared at it, then at my trembling hand, which had apparently just punched through reinforced steel without me noticing. Did I just do that? Fascinating. Dr. Fizzlebottom whispered excitedly. "Fear-activated enhancement. The more terrified you are, the stronger you become. That's the most useless superpower ever. I'm always terrified." "Exactly. You're like a walking panic-powered weapon." The footsteps were getting closer, and my terror levels were climbing accordingly. I reached out to steady myself against the wall and accidentally left a hand-shaped dent in the metal plating. "Okay, that's actually kind of cool," I admitted. We rounded a corner, and came face to face with Rick Sterling. Except Rick wasn't Rick anymore. His perfect features were still there, but his eyes were those same inky black pools, and he was grinning like someone had told him a joke involving other people's pain. "Marcus," he said cheerfully. "There you are, buddy. The swarm has been looking for you." I was so scared I probably set a new personal record for terror, which apparently translated into accidentally ripping the handrail clean off the wall when I grabbed it for support. "Whoa," Rick said, looking impressed despite the whole alien possession thing. "When did you get strong?" "It's complicated," I squeaked, then threw the handrail at him in a panic. "Here's the thing about fear-based super strength: you have absolutely no control over it." The handrail hit Rick like a metal torpedo, sending him flying backward through a reinforced bulkhead. He crashed into what used to be the station's cafeteria with a sound like a small explosion. "Did I just kill Rick?" I asked, horrified. "Unlikely. The parasites make their host remarkably durable. But you did just throw a grown man through a wall, so that's progress." We kept moving, and that's when I discovered my other new abilities. While Dr. Fizzlebottom was explaining the parasite's hive-mind connection, I started hearing voices in my head. Not sinister alien whispers, but something much worse. "I really need to pick up milk on the way home," one voice said. "Did I leave the coffee maker on?" said another. "My feet hurt. Why do these boots have to be so uncomfortable?" "The voices," I said, stopping in the middle of the corridor. "I can hear the voices." "The hive mind," Dr. Fizzlebottom gasped. "You're connected to their telepathic network. What are they saying? Battle plans? Strategic coordinates?" Sergeant Kane is thinking about whether she locked her apartment door this morning. Luna is mentally composing a grocery list. Oh, and apparently one of the infected scientists is lactose intolerant but really wants some cheese. Dr. Fizzlebottom stared at me. You're only picking up their mundane human thoughts, aren't you? Pretty much. Wait. Now Kane is worried about whether she fed her cat before the mission. This is either the most useless telepathic connection in history, or, his eyes lit up behind his broken glasses, or you're jamming their network. Your human thoughts are so aggressively ordinary that you're disrupting their alien coordination. That's when Luna Park came around the corner, moving with that same predatory grace as the others. Her scanner was modified now, crackling with alien energy, and her black eyes locked onto us with mechanical precision. Target acquired, she said in a voice that sounded like her vocal cords had been replaced with a computer program. I was getting scared again, which meant my reflexes were kicking into overdrive. But here's the weird part. My enhanced reflexes only seem to work for completely useless things. When Luna raised her modified scanner to blast us, I didn't dodge gracefully like an action hero. Instead, I instinctively caught a piece of ceiling debris that was falling toward Dr. Fizzlebottom's head, sidestepped a small oil spill on the floor, and somehow managed to straighten a crooked picture frame on the wall, all while Luna's energy blast sailed harmlessly past us. How did you know that debris was falling? Dr. Fizzlebottom asked, amazed. I have no idea. I just felt like something was about to mess up the feng shui in here. Luna fired again, and this time my ridiculous reflexes kicked in even harder. I found myself tidying up the entire corridor, while dodging energy blasts. I picked up scattered papers, organized some fallen equipment, and even managed to wipe down a dusty surface, all while moving like some kind of demented cleaning ninja. Stop organizing and start running. Dr. Fizzlebottom shouted. But I was in the zone now. My terror-induced strength, my domestic-focused super reflexes, and my ability to hear everyone's random thoughts were somehow working together in the most absurd way possible. I grabbed a maintenance cart, and my fear-powered muscles launched it at Luna with the force of a small missile. She dodged, but the cart exploded against the wall behind her, covering everything in cleaning supplies and making the floor incredibly slippery. The cleaning chemicals. Dr. Fizzlebottom yelled. The parasites are vulnerable to certain household cleaners. Luna tried to advance on us, but immediately slipped on the sudsy floor, her enhanced coordination no match for industrial-strength floor wax. She went down hard, her scanner skittering away across the slick surface. Did I just defeat an alien-enhanced super soldier with janitor supplies? I asked, watching Luna struggle to get back up on the soapy floor. Marcus, Dr. Fizzlebottom said with something approaching respect. I think you might be the most accidentally competent person I've ever met. That's when we heard Sergeant Kane's voice echoing through the corridors, except it wasn't quite her voice anymore. Wimple, get out here so we can assimilate you properly, and bring Fizzlebottom. The swarm is getting impatient. I could hear her thoughts too. Why is this taking so long? I should have finished my mission report by now. Oh, and I really do need to check on Mr. Whiskers when I get home. Your sergeant has a cat named Mr. Whiskers, Dr. Fizzlebottom asked. Apparently. And she's about as confused by this whole alien possession thing as we are. The station's lighting flickered, and through my unwanted telepathic connection, I could sense more infected hosts converging on our position. This was about to get a lot more complicated. But for the first time since joining the military, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I had some kind of advantage. Even if that advantage was being really good at panic-induced housekeeping. Okay, Fizzlebottom, I said, ducking behind an overturned lab table as more infected scientists gathered in the corridor outside. I need you to explain this hive mind thing again, because I think I'm accidentally breaking it. Through my unwanted telepathic connection, I could hear the chaos in their shared consciousness. It was like being tuned into the world's most dysfunctional radio station. Sergeant Kane. Why can't I remember the mission parameters? All I can think about is whether I turned off my coffee maker. Rick. My hair feels weird. Do I look okay? Wait. Why do I care about my hair right now? Luna. I keep getting distracted by this grocery list. Eggs, milk, bread, conquer humanity, bananas. They're losing focus, Dr. Fizzlebottom observed, watching the infected hosts through a crack in the door. They keep stopping mid-sentence and looking confused. That's because I can't stop thinking about normal human stuff, I said. Every time I get scared, which is constantly, I start worrying about whether I filed my tax return correctly, or if I remembered to water my mom's plants, or if that weird smell in my apartment is the garbage disposal again. And you're broadcasting all of that into their network. Apparently, watch this. I concentrated really hard on one of my most anxiety-inducing memories, the time I accidentally put salt instead of sugar in my coffee and had to pretend it tasted fine in front of my date. Through the telepathic link, I felt the entire hive mind collectively cringe. Several of the infected hosts actually stopped moving and made disgusted faces. Remarkable, Dr. Fizzlebottom whispered. Your human neuroses are contaminating their alien consciousness. Wait, I have an idea. A really stupid idea, but given my track record, those seem to work out. I closed my eyes and focused on being myself. Not the action hero I was supposed to be. Not the competent soldier everyone expected, but just Marcus Wimple in all his anxious incompetent glory. I thought about my fear of public speaking, my tendency to trip over flat surfaces, my complete inability to understand military acronyms, my chronic worrying about whether people actually liked me or were just being polite. I thought about my mother calling every week to ask if I was eating enough vegetables, my student loan debt, and that recurring nightmare where I showed up to an exam I'd forgotten about while wearing only underwear. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The infected hosts in the corridor suddenly stopped their coordinated advance and started having what could only be described as existential crises. Why are we doing this? Kane said, her black eyes flickering with confusion. I joined the military to serve humanity, not to. What are we doing again? Rick was examining his reflection in a broken monitor. Am I a good person? I mean really, or do I just tell myself that because it makes me feel better about my insecurities? Luna had sat down on the floor and was staring at her hands. What's the point of enhanced intelligence if we're just going to use it to hurt people? Shouldn't we be solving world hunger or something? It's working, Dr. Fizzlebottom exclaimed. Your psychological chaos is spreading through their network like a virus. But then I felt something else in the telepathic connection. Something bigger and angrier than the individual hosts. The central intelligence that controlled the parasite swarm was becoming aware of the problem. What is this interference? Boomed a voice in my head that definitely wasn't human. Why can the network not maintain cohesion? Oh, I said. I think I got the big boss's attention. The alien presence pressed against my mind like a psychic sledgehammer. It was ancient, powerful, and absolutely furious that some pathetic human was messing with its carefully orchestrated invasion. It said, and I could feel its disgust radiating through the connection. You are the source of this mundane contamination. Sorry, I offered weakly. Your thoughts are insufferably ordinary. Your fears are pedestrian. Your concerns are trivial beyond comprehension. Hey, my concerns are perfectly valid. Do you know how hard it is to get grass stains out of military uniforms? There was a pause. What are grass stains? And that's when I realized I had the alien hive mind exactly where I wanted it. I started explaining, in excruciating detail, every mundane human concern I could think of. The proper way to separate laundry by colors. The anxiety of waiting for a text message response. The social awkwardness of not knowing whether to tip the pizza delivery guy extra during the holidays. The existential dread of choosing a health insurance plan. The complicated etiquette of office birthday parties. With each trivial human concern, I felt the alien presence becoming more confused and frustrated. Stop, it commanded. These thoughts are boring, I suggested helpfully. Yeah, welcome to being human. We're mostly just worried about stupid stuff 90% of the time. Through the telepathic link, I could feel the infected hosts becoming more and more disoriented. The alien intelligence was trying to maintain control, but my relentless stream of everyday human anxiety was like throwing sand in the gears of a precision machine. Dr. Fizzlebottom was watching the infected scientists through the door crack, and his eyes were wide with amazement. They're fighting it. Your squadmates are fighting the parasite control. Sure enough, I could see Kane shaking her head like she was trying to clear it. The black in her eyes was flickering, occasionally showing glimpses of her normal brown eyes underneath. Kane, I called out. Remember Mr. Whiskers, you need to get home to feed Mr. Whiskers. Mr. Whiskers, she said, and for a moment her voice sounded almost normal. My cat. I have to. The black eyes flickered more rapidly. And Rick, I continued. Think about your hair routine. You spend 45 minutes every morning on that perfect styling. My hair. Rick touched his head uncertainly. It doesn't feel right. The product distribution is all wrong. Luna, you left 17 tabs open on your computer browser. 17, and you never bookmarked that article about optimal RAM configurations. 17 tabs, Luna muttered, looking genuinely distressed. That's terrible browser hygiene. The alien intelligence was getting desperate. See us this immediately. Your species' obsession with trivial matters is overwhelming our systems. Oh, you think that's bad? I said, Really getting into it now. Let me tell you about the time I spent 3 hours trying to decide between 2 identical white t-shirts at the store, only to get home and realize I already had 4 white t-shirts in my closet. Enough. But I was on a roll. I told it about parallel parking anxiety, the stress of choosing what to watch on streaming services, the social complexity of group chats, and the deep philosophical question of whether it's rude to microwave fish in the office break room. The infected hosts were stumbling around now, clutching their heads and looking increasingly human. The alien coordination was breaking down as my aggressively normal thoughts contaminated their shared consciousness. This is it, Dr. Fizzlebottom said excitedly. You're not just jamming their network, you're crashing it. Your human mundanity is causing a system-wide failure. I could feel the alien presence retreating, overwhelmed by the sheer weight of human ordinariness. But I also sensed it wasn't giving up. It was gathering itself for one final assault, and this time it was coming directly for me. Marcus, Dr. Fizzlebottom said, his voice suddenly serious. I think you're about to meet the Queen Parasite, and she's not happy about your housekeeping tips. The floor beneath us started vibrating, and not in a good way. It was more like a something very large and very angry is about to make a dramatic entrance kind of vibration. That would be the Queen, Dr. Fizzlebottom said, adjusting his broken glasses nervously. The central node of the parasite network. She's probably been dormant in the lower levels, but your telepathic interference has forced her to take direct action. The vibrations got stronger, and then the floor exploded upward in a shower of metal and debris. What emerged was, well, imagine if someone took a really angry jellyfish, gave it the size and attitude of a small building, and then decided it needed more tentacles and teeth than any reasonable creature should have. The Queen Parasite was magnificent in the most terrifying way possible. Her translucent body pulsed with that same eerie blue light, but amplified to the point where it hurt to look at directly. Dozens of writhing tentacles sprouted from her central mass, each one thick as my torso and crackling with alien energy. But the worst part was her voice. When she spoke, it wasn't just in my head anymore, it was everywhere, resonating through the station's hull and making my teeth ache. You, she said, and the word hit me like a physical blow. You are the aberration, the flaw in the perfect system. I tried to stand up straight and look heroic, but given that I was Marcus Wimple, what actually happened was I tripped over some debris and fell backward into Dr. Fizzlebottom. Sorry, I muttered, then looked up at the massive alien horror towering over us. Hi there. Great entrance, by the way. Really dramatic. The floor explosion was a nice touch. Your sarcasm cannot mask your fear, the Queen said, lowering several tentacles toward me. I can sense your terror. It radiates from you like heat from a dying star. She wasn't wrong. I was absolutely petrified. My fear levels were so high they were probably visible from orbit, which, according to my ridiculous new abilities, meant I was about to become incredibly strong and have enhanced reflexes focused on the most mundane possible things. Yeah, about that, I said, scrambling backward as her tentacles probed the air around me. Here's the thing about my fear. It comes with some weird side effects. One of her tentacles lashed out at me, moving faster than anything that size should move. My terror-powered reflexes kicked in, and I found myself reorganizing Dr. Fizzlebottom's lab coat pockets while simultaneously dodging the attack. Did you just rearrange my pens by color while avoiding certain death? He asked, amazed. Force of habit, I said, then had to duck as another tentacle smashed through the wall where my head had been. The Queen was getting frustrated. Hold still so that I may absorb your consciousness and end this interference. See, that's not really going to work for me, I said, my panic reaching new heights as more tentacles joined the attack. I have plans this weekend. Well, not really plans, more like anxiety about not having plans. Which is kind of a plan in itself when you think about it. And that's when I did it. I started sharing. Through the telepathic connection, I opened up the full, unfiltered experience of being Marcus Wimple. Not just my thoughts, but my entire emotional landscape. Every insecurity, every moment of social awkwardness, every time I'd ever worried about something completely insignificant. The time I spent 20 minutes in the cereal aisle because I couldn't decide between two brands that were essentially identical. The way I always worried that people were secretly judging my laugh. My ongoing concern about whether I was brushing my teeth correctly, and if not, whether my dentist was too polite to tell me. The existential crisis I'd had at age 12 when I realized that somewhere in the world, someone was probably having the worst day of their entire life, and there was nothing I could do about it. But I didn't stop there. I shared the uniquely human experience of lying awake at 3 in the morning, worrying about conversations from 5 years ago. The social paralysis of not knowing whether to say you too when the movie theater employee tells you to enjoy your film. The deep primal fear of being trapped in small talk with an acquaintance when you both clearly want the conversation to end, but neither knows how. The effect on the Queen was immediate and devastating. What? What is this? She shrieked, her tentacles recoiling as if I'd hit her with acid. These concerns they are, completely pointless, I suggested, dodging another wild tentacle swing. Yeah, that's humanity for you. We're really good at caring deeply about things that don't matter at all. I could feel her alien consciousness reeling under the assault of pure human mundanity. She was a being of cosmic purpose, designed for conquest and expansion, and I was drowning her in the psychological equivalent of elevator music. The inefficiency, she wailed. The waste of mental resources. How do you function with such chaotic thought patterns? Badly, I admitted, then shared my most devastating weapon, my complete and detailed memory of trying to set up a universal remote control for my mom's TV system. 2 hours of reading incomprehensible instructions. The growing certainty that the remote was somehow sentient and actively working against me. The moment when I finally got it working, only to discover that now the DVD player wouldn't turn on. The philosophical despair of realizing that technology was supposed to make life easier, but instead had created new and innovative ways to feel stupid. The Queen Parasite made a sound that I can only describe as the psychic equivalent of someone having a complete nervous breakdown. Stop, she begged. Please. These thoughts, they serve no purpose. They accomplish nothing. Why do you torment yourself with such trivialities? Because we're human, I said simply. That's what we do. We worry about everything, especially the stuff that doesn't matter. We overthink simple decisions, we remember embarrassing moments from decades ago, and we lie awake at night wondering if we offended someone by saying "bless you're wrong" after they sneezed. Through the telepathic link, I could feel the infected hosts throughout the station. The Queen's distress was rippling through the network, and one by one the parasites were giving up and abandoning their hosts. Faced with the prospect of sharing consciousness with an entire species of anxious overthinkers, they were basically rage-quitting. We're messy, I continued, pressing my advantage. We contradict ourselves constantly. We say we want one thing but do another. We spend our entire lives feeling like we're pretending to be adults while secretly wondering if everyone else has figured out something we missed. We're inefficient, irrational, and we care way too much about what other people think of our grocery cart contents. The Queen was shrinking now, her tentacles curling inward as she tried to protect herself from the overwhelming mundanity of human existence. Your species is impossible, she gasped. How can being so powerful be so ridiculous? I suggested. Yeah, we get that a lot, but here's the thing you missed. We're not powerful despite being ridiculous. We're powerful because of it. All that anxiety, all that overthinking, all those stupid worries. That's not a bug, it's a feature. It means we care. About everything. Even the things that don't make sense. The Queen Parasite gave one final, defeated wail and began to dissolve, her form breaking apart into thousands of smaller parasites that immediately began fleeing toward the exits. Through the station, I could hear my squadmates calling out in their normal voices as the alien influence finally left them. Marcus, Kane's voice echoed through the corridors, and for the first time in my military career, she actually sounded happy to hear from me. What the hell happened? And why do I have this overwhelming urge to go home and check on my cat? Dr. Fizzlebottom was staring at me with something approaching awe. You did it. You actually did it. You defeated an alien invasion by being aggressively ordinary. Is that good or bad? I asked, suddenly feeling exhausted. Marcus, he said, patting my shoulder. I think you might just be the most successful failure in human history. As we made our way toward the exit, I could still feel the faint telepathic connection to the fleeing parasites. They were broadcasting a message to the rest of their kind, a warning about Earth and humanity. The message was simple: do you not attempt invasion. Species too weird. Abort mission. Repeat, too weird. 3 hours later, we were back on the transport ship, filing our mission reports. Kane was actually smiling, which I'd never seen before. Rick had spent 20 minutes fixing his hair, and seemed much more like his old self. Luna was happily reorganizing her equipment, and muttering about browser efficiency. So, Kane said, looking at me with something that might have been respect, turns out being completely incompetent at everything military makes you excellent at psychological warfare against aliens. I'm adding it to my resume, I said. Don't, she replied. We're classifying this whole thing. As far as the official record goes, we neutralized the threat through standard military protocol. What about my heroic victory through weaponized anxiety? Never happened. You're still the worst soldier in the Corps, Wimple. But, she paused, and I swear she almost smiled again. You're our worst soldier, and apparently that's exactly what we need. As I settled into my bunk that night, I reflected on the day's events. I was still Marcus Wimple. I still couldn't do a proper push-up. I still got lost reading maps, and I still had no idea what half the military acronyms meant. But I'd saved the day, by being myself. Completely, authentically, ridiculously myself. And somewhere in the vast cosmos, an alien species was adding humanity to their definitely do not invade list, right between species that weaponize mathematics and planets with carnivorous gravity. Not bad for a day's work, even if I'd never be able to put it on my official record. After all, the best victories are often the ones nobody believes actually happened.